And good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining tonight for the Scanner Guys. We are live this evening from our studios right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. We are excited to be able to talk about tonight's show. We are talking about the Unication G4 and G5 units. These units are really awesome. We highly recommend those if you're looking for something to monitor strictly a trunk system. You know, this may be a great option to take a look at. So tonight, we're going to cover these radios. We'll talk a little bit about them. Maybe they are a great unit for you. They may not be the best fit for you as well. We just want to do a quick shout out to our viewers down in Florida. Hopefully you're being safe down there. I know the hurricane is just about making a landfall there. I know a lot of people are taking precautions down there, so definitely be safe if you are in Florida and heed those warnings. So let's take a look at tonight's presentation. We're talking about the Unication G4 and G5. So let's take a look at a couple of slides here, and then we'll jump right into it. So follow, like, and subscribe to our social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Scanner Guys. And make sure you check out our website, thescannerguyshow.com. You can view our blog and even check out our swag shop. So you can buy hats, t-shirts. We've got a travel mug. We've got all types of cool stuff on the website as well. So definitely check that out on the website. So the Unication G4 and G5, these are just like little pagers. They're small handheld units. You're able to monitor phase 1 digital and phase 2 digital trunk systems on them. So if you're looking for something that's an alternative to a scanner, small and compact, these units definitely fit the bill. They do have a larger price tag, so they're not cheap by any means. This was the answer to simulcast before the SDS 100 and 200 came out. A lot of companies sold these because, a lot of people were so aggravated with simulcast issues. So these Unication pagers worked phenomenally well with simulcast. Being able to handle that with just like a pro, like the SDS 100 and 200. So these radios are Unication P25 trunking pagers. They're capable of alerts for emergency calls by conventional two-tone paging. They also will listen to a P25 digital trunk system or conventional radio system. So they'll do both. Nice and compact, small, fits right in the palm of your hand. Let's take a look at this flyer here so we could see the two models I would recommend to the vast majority of the scanner community is the G4 and the G5. Now the G4 and the G5 have some great features. The G4 is going to support P25 conventional and P25 phase 1 and phase 2. And it's available in 7 and 800 megahertz. So that's the G4. So if your trunk system that you're monitoring is strictly monitoring 7 to 800 megahertz, then the G4 would do the bill. If you're in an area where they're using something other than the 7 and 800 megahertz, maybe they're using VHF channels or UHF channels. If you're up in Maine, for example, they have a VHF trunk system. So if you were to monitor these types of communications, the G5 would be the best, and you would have to get the VHF version of it to be able to monitor that trunk system. Vast majority of the trunk systems out there are 7 and 800 megahertz, but there are a few exceptions, like that main trunk system. So that's the major difference in between the G4 and the G5. The G4 is a single band receiver, 7 and 800 megahertz. The G5 is going to incorporate the 7 and 800 megahertz plus maybe VHF or UHF. but they're very similar radios. The other thing with the G5, it supports analog two-tone conventional, which is nice. So this is certainly a great radio to be able to consider if you're just monitoring a trunk system. Maybe you're not doing VHF or UHF or monitoring the railroads or aviation, or you're just monitoring strictly a trunk system. This would be a great unit. These units have zones, so you can do up to 8 zones, which is AKA banks. If you think about it, so you could turn the knob on the top and allows you to be able to switch from zone to zone. The way my radio is set up is I'm monitoring a lot of stuff around here. So there's communities that actually have their own talk groups. Hamilton, Fairfield, Middletown, Trenton. So I have each one of those communities as its own zone. So if I wanted to monitor the talk groups that are for Fairfield, I would switch to that. Same thing for Hamilton and all the other communities. So you can kind of divide out the programming. So I'm monitoring the Mark system with this radio. It works really well. I've also monitored, when I was down in North Carolina, the Viper system. So this radio is actually pretty rugged. As you can see here, it is impact resistant, waterproof, dustproof, rugged housing, supports up to 256 channels. It has Bluetooth, something that everybody's been wanting with everybody's been wanting for the scanners, but this does support Bluetooth. The other great thing, it'll replay back radio transmissions as well, which is really awesome. So if you miss a radio transmission, you can replay it, which is really nice. And these radios actually have a 2-year warranty, and then you can extend it out for a 3-year option. So let's take a deeper look at these two radios. So we could see here that the G4 is supporting a single band, which is 700 and 800 megahertz, and then we have the G5, which is a dual band radio. So it supports either VHF plus 700 and 800 megahertz or UHF plus 700 and 800 megahertz. So that's a big difference, and you're going to see a price difference as well, where the G5 is going to be priced a lot higher. And I'm seeing online, anywhere from, on the G5, probably around $700, and then the G4 about $600. So, they are pricey, just like the SDSs, but they do a really great job. Keep in mind, this is not a true scanner. I can't stress that enough. I mean, this is going to be something you're going to program a trunk system on, and you're going to be monitoring just that particular trunk system and those particular talk groups. With a scanner, if there's multiple trunk systems, you can scan them all together. You could scan conventional and trunking at the same time. This you can't. So definitely keep that in mind. That little stubby antenna that's on the radio, you probably say, boy, that's not much of an antenna. It does a great job. That's what I use on the radio. I get really great reception pretty much anywhere I go with this. I've had it in the vehicle without an external antenna. Works really well. Works great in the house. So certainly a great receiver. I would highly recommend checking that out. Here's a little bit about the radio. As you can see here, it's got a rich colored display. So it's a full color display. It doesn't have a ton of buttons, but it does have a substantial amount of buttons. The knobs on the top, as you can see right at the top, if we're looking at the radio that's facing us, the volume knob is the one that's all the way over to the right. The center one basically will allow you to turn to the various groupings, being able to do that, and then or zones, I should call it. And then of course you get the stubby antenna. And then the battery is a flat battery, which you can open the battery door in the back. It's got a screw, so you would have to unscrew that to open that. This radio can be powered via a USB cable with a wall wart, just like your phone. You know, the little square little box with the prongs to go in the outlet. That cable is also dual purpose. So that cable will also be used for programming as well. Very much like many of the portable radios that we have now from Uniden. So you can get a good lay of the land there. And it also has a really rugged belt clip, as you could see there with that side profile. You could see the rugged belt clip as well. So I would strongly take a look at this this receiver. Let's take a look at the next slide. So here's some images of the display. Looks really nice. Full color display here. Shows all the various icons, you know, what the trunk system status is. It'll even let you know when the radio is out of range of the system, and it will alert you. The other thing too is it's got the battery status, very much like a cell phone, shows the full battery, low battery, and so forth. Shows time display, whether or not Bluetooth is enabled. You could do a lot with this radio, but you could see here, you know, looks really, it's a really great screen. I can't say enough about it. Here's a closer look at the radio here. So let's kind of go over those specs. It probably was a little hard to see on those sales flyers, but the G5 is the dual band radio. Remember, G5 dual band. Supports P25 phase 1 and phase 2. So there's several different versions of this radio. There's a couple of UHF versions that cover certain portions of the band. So you want to make sure that you can, you know, you're getting the right radio in case you do need that coverage. Yes, you can upgrade the antenna. I believe even Unication has a couple of antenna options on their website. So if you're looking for something a little different, but believe it or not, Brandon, that antenna does a really good job. I'm very surprised by that. So we've got a couple of UHF radio versions there. We got VHF as well. And as I mentioned earlier, the VHF is great for the state of Maine because that's one state that's actually using VHF for their statewide digital trunk system. So if you were to get one of these and you wanted to monitor the state of Maine's trunk system, that would be the one that you would need to do, is the G5 VHF. As I mentioned earlier, up to, we're looking at about 256 channels. It's strong and durable, high impact colored screen. Comes with a battery, programming and charging cable, so that's dual purpose, power adapter, and then it comes with a manufacturer's a 2-year warranty. Brandon, I'm not really sure on the, I've never used an external antenna for this particular radio. I'm sure you could get one of those antennas that are for the mobile as well. Here is the G4, which I've talked about. This is a single band radio, so 700 and 800 megahertz. So if you were, let's say, here in Ohio, the MARC system is pretty much 700 and 800 megahertz. So this radio will do the job here. Not as expensive. Also has that high impact colored screen. Comes with the same thing in the box. The rechargeable battery, the programming and charging cable, AC adapter, and a 2-year manufacturer's warranty. So great unit to definitely take a look at here. There's tons of accessories for this particular radio. We could actually take a look at some of those accessories. So let me pull up Unication's website and we may be able to take a look at some of the accessories that they do have for their radios. Let's see here. We'll share the screen again. So right here is the Unication website. So we could see that the prices here, what we're looking at is probably the G4 and G5, which would fit most everybody's, what they're looking for trunking systems, and P25 digital. So you're looking at about $665, and then you're looking at about $100 more for that dual G5. Now there's some really cool stuff here. We have but they have an amplified charger, which is right here. It has an onboard speaker, which is really nice. The desktop charger is really nice because you can drop it into a cradle here. There is some carrying cases, as we can see here. Several different ones of those. But yeah, I mean, there is they also have their own Bluetooth headphone, and then of course they have screen protector as well. We'll go into their store and take a look here at some additional items here. So lots of the same things here. We can see they've got a replacement battery here, which goes for about $32.50. But yeah, you can see that drop-in charger there. The desk cradle, which is about $157. So just a little bit of stuff here to be able to keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, this stuff certainly is really cool. Let's go back to the slide deck, and we'll talk about this a little bit more here about these radios. So let's go back to that. And let's talk about these radios a little bit more. Okay, so let me just go back to our main slide here. So these radios program just like a two-way radio. So it's not simple to program. That's one thing to keep in mind is, everything that you've kind of learned using the Butel software or ProScan, this doesn't use neither one of those softwares. Unication has their own software. It's a very layered, procedured programming software, very much the way that you would program on a two-way radio. They have upgraded the software so you can import trunk systems from Radio Reference, which is a huge improvement compared to when I first got my Unication radio. There was no import capability, so you literally had to basically go in there, type in the frequencies, type in the talk groups. It does take a little bit of time, so you have to have some background on being able to understand trunking completely in order to be able to take advantage of these Unication radios. But as I mentioned earlier, this is for someone that's wanting to monitor exclusively a trunk system. So let's say if you're down in North Carolina, the Viper system. So you want to monitor just, a particular set of talk groups for the Viper system. So then you could do that. If you're looking to monitor, something in the Mark system here. So let's say if you're in Cincinnati, you want to monitor, the Cincinnati police or fire. You could get one of these, program it for the site that you're closest to that's able to follow those talk groups, and then you're going to program in the talk groups that you want to monitor. Now, of course, you could set up the radio however way you want with the actual zones. The great thing about that is if you're a fire buff and you wanted to break out some of the zones into, let's say you want the fire dispatch on one zone, and then you want the mutual aid on a different zone. You can do all types of things. You can kind of dream of it. You can set up the radio however way you like. The way I have these radios set up is I have each city or town in Butler County. It's not regional, it's regional dispatching to a degree, but each city and town has its own talk groups. So they're not on one channel. So the great thing about that is what I did was I programmed A couple communities that are in Butler County, like Hamilton, Fairfield, um, Middletown, and Trenton, and I basically put them into the reach zone. So if I was up in Hamilton, I could switch to Hamilton and just hear communication there with police and fire. So that's kind of how I have my radio set up. But I have the G5. I could actually get by with the G4 because I really don't need the VHF or UHF of the G5. They are expensive. You really have to have a good understanding on how to program a trunk system. Now, originally these came out for people that are volunteer firemen or what have you, as a lesser expensive unit to have on them versus these high-end Motorola radios, which go for a lot of money. So these are actually a lot more affordable than the Motorola portable radios. You saw on the screen there, $600 to $700 versus a handheld radio that could go for thousands upon thousands of dollars to be able to monitor a phase 1 or phase 2 trunk system. So that's a big thing. The G4 and G5 certainly. No, there's no base station versions of these. These are just, it's basically this company creates pagers, so it's small and compact. You can use that docking station if you wanted to use it as a base unit. Basically, the docking station allows you to put it into the cradle, be able to use that external speaker. I believe you can always put an external antenna on it, but really, that antenna, I am blown away. It's a stubby antenna, works great. I mean, I really haven't had any issues with it whatsoever. I've been all over the place with this radio, but it certainly works really well. A lot of great questions there. I see, East Coast pagers. Phil of the Scanner School has deals on these radios. He's one of the vendors that are out there that actually sell these radios. So if you're interested, certainly take a look at that. But keep in mind that it's not simple to program. I cannot stress that enough. It is, you have to take your time. It's nothing like, a scanner. It's way different. It's a layered type of programming where you're setting up a site, and then you're setting up, talk groups. You're putting these into zones. You're putting in some additional information, which is listed on Radio Reference, but you want to make sure that you're doing this absolutely correctly. So there's a lot of great stuff here. But yeah, this is tonight's presentation. I just wanted to talk about these radios. This is something that I've never covered on the show because this is not a traditional scanner. Yes, it does scan the talk groups that you're looking to monitor, but the audio. Dick asked a question in the audience: how's the audio compared to the SDSs? Believe it or not, compact as it is, that speaker is quite robust. And the digital audio is superb. So I would say it's probably about equal. But, I was surprised by the size of that speaker, how loud it can get. Walter mentions volunteer fire department volunteer fire needs to get pagers like G4, G5. I see that, yeah, because it's a lot less. Dale mentioned, one of the top end Motorola receivers, not receivers, but two-way radios, portables, you're looking at about $8,000. So it's not the software. You don't have to, you're not having to buy that. That's actually included. So when you purchase the radio, you'll get the software as well. So it's not something they tack on for an additional cost. And as I mentioned, that programming cable is also the cable that powers the unit as well. So you're not having to buy an additional cable. but yeah, I mean, this is something to take a look at. For the most part, if you're looking for a traditional scanner, um, look towards the Uniden and Whistler product, like the SDSs, the 436s, the 536s, the 325 P2s, the 996 P2. There's a lot of great radios out there. This is, kind of a niche thing, but definitely keep that in mind. Do we have any other questions? What is, let me just take a look. Hold on one second. We'll look to see if that rating is on the sheet. IP rating. Let me just see. I have the sheet up in case you could see it. I'm not sure of that. But there's more details certainly on the website. IP rating of 67. There it is. It's on the front page. I thought I saw it that way. So, little different. Great question about enabling the zones. So the zones are basically knob turns. So you're going to monitor one zone at a time. So you're going to want to configure these zones the way you want to set up the radio. So let's say, for example, you wanted to set up, let's use Cincinnati, for example. Let's say you want to set up Zone 1 for Cincinnati Police and Fire. Zone 2, maybe just Cincinnati Police. Zone 3, Cincinnati Fire. So you could break it out. You could do the talk groups multiple times in different zones and configure it however way you want. Same thing, you can do, like if you're just strictly fire buff. Like, for example, if I was strictly a fire buff, I could set up each zone for each community. Like Hamilton Fire, Fairfield Fire, Trenton Fire, Middletown Fire, just give you an example. So, yeah, so the zones, it is a bit pricey. No, the radio reference database is not built into it. It's entirely different. It's more like a two-way radio. The radio reference database is built into the Uniden database radios because it's made to do that. This is not a zip code driven radio. It's not a favorites list radio. So it's nothing like those radios. It's a high-end receiver. All it's missing is the push to transmit. That's essentially what's missing on there. All right. Let me, what I'm going to do is I'll roll through a couple of slides and then we'll answer any final questions for this evening. So tonight, of course, we covered, P25 trunking, digital scanner alternatives. This was the G4 and G5. We kind of talked about that. Make sure you check out our website, thescannerguys.com, scannerguysshow.com, excuse me. You could check out, our store. You can check out our blog. If you're looking to purchase any scanner-related products, Uniden, Whistler, antennas, things like that, check out Scanner Master. Their affiliate link is down below in the description of this video. So we have an affiliate link with them, so that helps to be able to keep the shows going for us. While you're here, make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to Radio Reference. I just read that comment. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to the Scanner Guys, Facebook, X, YouTube, and Instagram at the Scanner Guys. And then, of course, shop our swag shop at thescannerguysshow.com. Let's go to your questions. Yes, so somebody asked, can you log into the Radio Reference database for the software? Yes. So you would use your username and password to log in. So you have to be a paid subscriber in order to take advantage of the import capability with the Unication software. Now, Brandon, keep in mind you don't want to. This is not the radio for monitoring ham radio and GMRS. This is not for this. It's strictly for more so of monitoring a trunk system. So I wouldn't waste your money buying these radios if you're wanting to monitor GMRS and ham radio. I would not recommend that. I would recommend using, a Uniden radio or a Whistler radio. So yeah, you could basically create favorites lists on your SDS 100 and 200, and it's just another name for zones. But the difference is with the SDS 100 and 200 and all the database united scanners is you can monitor more than one favorites list at a time. Where with the Unication radios, you can only monitor one zone at a time. So whatever zone you have it on, that's what you can monitor. So you cannot monitor, more than one zone. So this is where, these radios are very limited. They're not like a scanner. You're not going to be monitoring, scanning through GMRS and ham radio and then trunking. That's what a traditional scanner will do. This is basically you set up a zone. You're gonna monitor those particular talk groups or conventional channels. That's it. It's not gonna do a whole bunch of wide variety of things. It's not gonna go in between trunking and conventional. These radios are great for what they do, but they're not going to be ideal for each scanner user. Let me just look here. Let's Go Rail Fanning asked if I've been rail fanning lately. The last time I went out was Fonstoria, which was a couple weekends ago. The video is up on YouTube for my Fonstoria trip. Adam, no problem. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so sorry. I need to email you and set up a date for your show that you're going to come on with me. I got to do that. I'm so sorry. Work has been nuts. Joe P mentions about getting a G5 when his looks like his county goes to a P25 next year. It looks like another year it'll be going to P25. Before you do that investment, make sure they're not doing any type of encryption. So once they get their system up and running, give it a little bit of time before you make that huge investment. You don't want to make that investment and then eventually they flip it to encryption. Usually they'll roll it out typically with the encryption, or they'll do it shortly after. You've answered the audio. The audio is very good. I've been very pleased with it. The speaker is very robust. Car and bike mounts, not that I know of. You might be able to get something that'll hold it. Looking at it. Anything else? I think I've covered most of the questions here. Yes, exactly. Joe hit the nail right in the head, which I kind of mentioned at the top of the show. Is these were the answer to simulcast before the SDSs came out. Once the SDSs came out, basically, they kind of took over, the Unication sales. At one point, ScannerMaster was a Unication dealer. Once the SDSs came out, the sales started to trickle down on the Unication radios, so they stopped carrying them, so the SDSs kind of took over that. GPS, no, there's no need for GPS. There's no internal database inside the unit, so there's no need for GPS inside of the G4 or G5. That's just an unnecessary thing. Any other questions before we wrap up tonight's show? I know it was kind of a quick show, but I just wanted to kind of give you a lay of the land, a little bit detailed of that. Ron's mentioning that his county is P25 simulcast, but his 536 HP works great where he's at. Yeah, you're probably in a sweet spot in the county where you're more closer to one of those towers. Uh, let's say if you were dead in the middle and you had a tower here and a tower here, your radio is going to be receiving both signals at the same time and it's going to get confused. But if you're really close to one of those towers, you're probably not going to experience that simulcast issue. A new Georgia system. I'm not familiar with it. I'm sure you're going to the right source with Radio Reference forums to be able to find out the latest and greatest of that. I haven't been following that, unfortunately, but that's interesting that Georgia is coming out with a new system. Um, I'm not sure on Amazon. I mean, I really try to support. When I buy things online, I try to support a lot of the local businesses. Yeah, the prices could be more, but I try to support some of the mom and pop businesses, such as East Coast Paging. If I was to buy any accessories, I would buy it directly from them before I would buy it on Amazon. Um, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of places where you could buy these radios. Let's see here. I think that's about it for comments tonight. But yeah, definitely thank you so much for watching tonight's show. Let me know, down in the comment section. If you own a Unication radio, we'd love to be able to hear how do you like it. But yeah, we talked about tonight the G4 and the G5. As always, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And definitely join us next week. I believe there will be a Train Aficionado show. I will be traveling next week, so keep an eye on the Train Aficionado social media channels for whether or not there'll be a show. I'm going to see if I could try to produce something, but I will not be in the live audience because I'll be actually flying back to Cincinnati on Wednesday night. I'm sorry to hear that, Scott, about your community, using a system that doesn't seem to be monitored. I'm sorry to hear that. But thank you all for watching our show tonight. Website. What I use for my website is WordPress. Great question. Use WordPress for both Train Aficionado and the Scanner Guys website. All right. Well, thank you so much to everybody joining tonight. We hope you have a great evening. We'll catch you again on the next Train Aficionado show and Scanner Guys show. Have a great night. Bye-bye.